You were also on another show of ours very recently that has been
sweeping the nation.
Ooh.
Jacoby, I probably said this at the live reunion, which has happened already, but hasn't happened yet. I think Robert played the best game because I think the winner of the game played the best game.
Right.
I think you were the player that people will look at and say played the best game. And I think arguably because you probably had the most knowledge of Survivor going into it. Like fun fact, and this will be revealed at the live thing, Paul didn't know how the game ended.
Didn't
know how you won the game. So, like Paul, like when Giancarlo got voted out, Paul was texting Giancarlo being like, "Yeah, screw you," like sending him gifts and stuff. Which is why in the finale, Giancarlo's like, "Yeah, screw Paul. I'm voting for anybody but Paul."
That's funny.
And Robert knew somewhat about the game, but he also was like keeping very below, almost too below the surface to where there was an argument that like he didn't make enough big moves. I think watching it back, I was like, oh shit, Robert like lied to Nazario, got Giancarlo to vote for someone else, which got Giancarlo voted out, turned on Cody without like even thinking about it.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's why, hey, watching it back and then doing a live reunion after you can see all the episodes is much more valuable because you can see all this stuff. Because I agree.
But you are like the trying to think of which seasons you've seen that this would make sense. You're like the person that like is set up to be the winner that gets voted out right at the very end.
So close. Yes.
Would you agree? Is that how you saw? Like, did you think you were about to win?
I think that I could have had a pretty good shot and I could explain my actions exactly of why I was trying to control the games, why I made the choices that I did, which involved, getting Tim out at the time that I did, which I am sorry for there. No, but in order to do that, like I knew that would get like us, like that would create some chaos when I knew, because like, I remember I was watching the episode afterwards where Cody was like, Jacoby just screwed himself because now he's on the team with 2 to 3. But in my mind, I was like, we're going to merge like this. Like we're merging. So I knew we had to do that. So I knew at that point, if I come in there with the, with them still in it and me on there, I could probably sink below a little bit, survive a few more weeks. And then it sucks that my plan really did hinge on at the very end. It's like, I got to win the last immunity. Like I knew I had
to. Did you know it was you had said in a prior episode, you were like, I know Nick hates final threes. That doesn't mean in future seasons it won't be a final 3, but yes, for this first one, I was like, nope, it's a final 2 guaranteed. Like, were you confident in that?
I had a feel like I was assuming because I was like, I've heard you go so hard against the final 3s. I'm like, this is Nick's show. He's going to do what he wants here, and like, why the value of that? So I knew if I could just get there, I had to do that. But I knew what it meant was, again, I had to win the last immunity. So when I didn't, I'm like, that's it. So I hinged it all, put all my eggs in that one basket a whole lot. But it was fun to play to get to that point because I like being a little crazy.
Quite frankly, I think you made the show as fun as it was this season because I was very worried, and I'm trying to avoid this for future seasons. But for the first one, I was like, I can't just message random people and be like, "Hey, come be in this experimental show I'm trying to do." So I had to get a group of people that knew each other. And I got 2 factions of people, and I tried to split you all up. I don't know if you guys could tell, but I purposely like split you so that you and your like closest ally
we could tell.
Were on other teams.
What are you talking about? Me and Tim have always been like this. I don't know what you're talking about.
I was very worried
ever since Satan's Alley. We've been
ever since Satan's Alley.
I was very worried that my buddies from New York were going to be voted out 1, 2, 3, and 4.
I am glad they weren't. It makes the show so much better. When Nazario goes in that second, was it episode 2, right?
It's the premiere, but it's the second.
Oh, but it's the second week, yeah. And then because I think episode 4 or it's episode 3 is the one after I get voted out, where it opens up and they're like, "So who got voted out?" And Cody's like, "Tim," and everyone's like, "What?"
Yeah,
so, like the fact that like they made it as far as a lot of them did, especially Paul, was awesome.
It was great. And but I agree because that's what makes it exciting. I mean, that's what makes it the hint of unpredictability that like, I think the show should have, right? It should be a little bit fun and it's fun to watch it and fun to play it. Like, and that's sort of like, let's see what happens, Like,
3 of them made it to the jury.
Yeah.
So if it was between 2 of like the trivia people, as they were called throughout the show, like those 3 guys would probably be like, well, this guy like didn't screw us right away, so let's vote for him.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought the person that won or like played a winning game would be the one to like cross those lines. And you and Paul definitely like did that. So it was great, man. I had a blast watching.
I know you guys who were talking about that show. It seemed like you were talking for like a while to like get it off the ground. So that's why I think it's so cool, just like for all your planning to like finally launch something and to like do it, and for it to be successful only with like the minor hiccups of like Coho and Bill having to like drop out. Like who knows what would have happened if they stuck around, like, right? That could have been.
You guys, by the way, you two said it when they left. Tim said, I would have voted Coho first, and Jacoby said, I would have voted Bill first. Was that honest, or were you just trying to like tell Paul and Giancarlo, like, yeah, no, we totally would have voted them out?
That was 100% my take.
I agree. Because I would want more of them on there to create more chaos for like me personally to like go farther. Like that's why I would want that sort of that element of there. So
yeah, if you would have asked me after the first week or before we ever started, and this is probably naive of me, but I would have said, yeah, get the people I don't know out of there, because I could feel like I could maybe like control the people I know more. Which I mean, I think we all did it, but I think looking back on and watching the show, there are times where like I definitely was like poking Cody a little bit with our group of being like, he's losing his mind. Fuck him. It's going crazy. Screw him. Just totally out of like Cody's gonna hear that Tim said this and be pissed, and that's so like I was trying to play those games. So beforehand, if you would have asked me, I would have been like, whoever I can vote out that I don't know, get him out of there. But immediately after week 1, I was like, Paul's got to stay. Like he's got, and I like Giancarlo. Like I think he's a good dude, and like he's I think his match has aired now, or maybe not. No
matches have aired yet.
No match,
except just the last one standing.
Except for the last one standing. But he's so he has a match coming up. We filmed that, and he's a fun guy. He's a good dude.
That's great. I like how into it he was in terms of just like he seemed like the biggest Survivor fan there is, like switching the buffs ever.
I don't think he's ever seen the show either.
Oh, he hasn't either. That's hilarious, because again, I just like how he came in with red, and then when he was blue, he
but like I didn't really get to meet Eddie, and I actually doing like he also has a match coming up too. Getting to meet him in that, I think I would really like Eddie. He seems like a really nice guy. But like Liam, Paul, and Giancarlo were really fun, and immediately my eyes were open where I was like, oh, okay. And after the like second week, I was like, get Coho out of here. Like that was my opinion. And it wasn't because of Coho. It was just because of like looking at the people that were on our team. I'm like, I'm not voting Paul out. I'm not voting Jacoby out. Like Bill was there to stay for me. Like I thought Bill could have won the whole thing if he had stuck around.
I thought Bill could have too.
So
if you guys never went to tribal,
it was very honest. It was an honest point at the time.
Yeah. Eddie drew the short end of the stick.
That's a tough position to be in.
And it's crazy. And I will harp on this I did harp on this at the live reunion. He got one question right. Everyone said he got 0. And there were like 3 people that only got 2 questions right.
Right, but it's like at that stage, it's like you're really just trying to find a reason, right? Like it's like you just need one thing to stick onto, because like honestly, that's the like. Sorry, Tim. Like Tim, I knew I wanted to get you like just to be out in terms of thing, and I had to use the reason of just like he said he wanted to be out. Let's do it sort of like there,
I definitely
sort of thing, right? Like that's, absolutely. But you're just like grasping, especially those first weeks. Like he looked at me wrong. He's out. Like let's just all vote him out. You know.
My last question for you on Virtual Survivor.
Yeah.
Your fatal flaw, your one trip up mistake. Actually, I guess 2 questions. Yeah. The thing Paul said he was voting you out for. Do you believe it, or do you think Paul was just saying like, no, I don't want to go up against Jacoby, so I'm going to figure out some reason to vote him out?
I guess it's hard to with the live has already aired, but like it's weird. So for my fatal flaw, where I was a little shady with it.
What do you think was your biggest mistake?
Oh, what do I think was my biggest mistake? Yeah, I guess, man, to be honest, that's a tough question. I really want to. I can't wait to. because I haven't seen back that element yet of like that moment of like my final conversations with Paul. And I'm sure when I do, I'm going to think like, man, I should have approached it like a little bit differently. Like in terms of like, I probably played it a little too safe at times.
It's very much like Paul caught you off guard, because I know, because I've seen it, but it's very much like Paul caught you off guard. It's almost like you went into the conversation thinking like, cool, it's me and Paul. And when Paul said like, you said this thing, you're kind of like, yeah, I said that.
It's always those moments you're caught in those lies. You're like, crap. And like, I know it's like, I probably at that point I had said so many things. So I'm like, okay, what is he upset about and why? And not being able to process that in time, you know, and come up with some.
I think, and Paul says as much, because he'll be like, yeah, Jacoby was my number one, but then he said this and this, and then at the end of all of it, Paul goes, and I thought he'd kick my ass at the finals.
I agree with that. I'm just being a little vain here. I don't like when he says like, you said some shady shit, like it's like, we're playing this game of shady shit. We're all lying to each other in some capacity. So that's always my philosophy in terms of that. But I know people play that game that way. Like they want to play the honest game and they want to go through that thing. But I think Survivor's a game of deceit. We're all lying to each other. I would never feel bad about being betrayed by somebody for lying to me because that's what makes it fun. But that's just me.
And I know that because in Final Tribal, you were big on that. And both Robert and Paul like refused to give into that. Yeah. They were like, nope, I was honorable. And Jacoby's sitting there like, no, you weren't.
Tell us you guys are lying. You're playing a game of just being deceitful to each other. Admit, I know maybe that doesn't win jury votes, but it wins my vote in terms of just like, admit that you're lying to people to win the game because that's what we're doing.
Paul's problem, and Paul, and I'll say this, Paul is like the biggest bullshitter I know. He's one of my best friends, but he's so good at bullshitting people. The whole soup salad sandwich thing, he's so full of shit on that. I swear to God. He like read all of that online, and now it's like he's like, yeah, soup salad. But anyway, he thought bullshit got him to that point, plus a couple immunity wins. He thought it was going to win the game for him. But in Final Tribal, as you said to Robert, Final Tribal is where you put it all out on the line, and you just like tell the jury this is what happened. No more lies, no more bullshit. Yeah. And Paul just tried to bullshit his way through all of it. He couldn't.
Yeah.
Oh.